Nickelodeon blessed us with a short little Latina chick named Taina. In the very next year, they took her away from us. It's crazy how they did her. But Taina, man, a fun little early 2000 show about a little chick from New York trying to get famous while going to a school that's known for honing talent. It's a short and sweet premise. Such a sweet premise, in fact, that Nickelodeon decided to do the same exact thing 9 years later. Crazy. Hey man, I love Victorious, but I cannot lie, bro. Victorious is for real just Taina for the suburbs. That's it, bro. But as I was saying, although it might be a short, sweet, simple premise, it's about how you handle that premise to make it its own thing and make it unique. And I personally feel Taina did just that with its characters, its music, and most importantly, its vibe. Let's talk about why Taina is Nickelodeon's underrated gem that desperately needs more love. Let's get into this video. Behind every one of your favorite shows is a strong cast with a strong lead and good supporting characters. And Taina is no different. Personally, this is one of my favorite groups of characters to come out of Nickelodeon. We got, of course, the main character Taina, her best friend Renee, the goofy duo Danny and Lamar, and Maritza, who is the best character, but we're gonna get into that in a little bit. Now Taina, she's a fun character for me because unlike most Nickelodeon main characters, Taina got a big head. In the first episode, this chick walk up into school thinking she is the top dog. Like in her head, she really do think she is the best of the best and she is just waiting on her moment to shine. It takes her getting hit with a reality check from one of her teachers that you really ain't like that yet. You got ways to go. And from then on, she takes that life lesson with her and continues to grow. While still being a bit big-headed at times, it's contrasted with her big heart and her love for her friends and family, which is also a commendable thing about Taina, man. The loving family dynamic. They ain't never malicious towards each other. She ain't never shown being outright disrespectful to none of her elders. And for some reason, that's a rarity with Nickelodeon. I don't know what's up with Nickelodeon, specifically Dan Schneider's obsession with making disrespectful kids and families who basically hate each other. You see a lot with they shows, so seeing Taina's dynamic is definitely a breath of fresh air. And speaking of a breath of fresh air, let's talk about her best friend, Renee. Now, Renee is more of a comedic type character with majority of what comes out of her mouth being either a joke or her just cracking on somebody. She a fun little energetic chick that can always bring a good laugh, man. A fun attitude that is almost identical to Keke Palmer. Like the way they act, their mannerisms, the way they sound is so similar. It's almost like Keke Palmer just copy and paste her whole personality from Renee. Just watch this and tell me if I'm lying.
$6,000? For $6,000 you can tie me to a skateboard, strap a sledgehammer to my head, and call me your battle bot baby. $6,000 I am in. Woo! $6,000. All right.
Other than that though, Renee is really just a fun, ride-or-die friend that's ready to get into any type of mess her friend is ready to put her through. You can't ask for more than that for real, man. Now as for Danny, I'm gonna be real, there's not too much to Danny, man. Danny is gifted with instruments. You give him any instruments, there's 9 times out of 10, he knows how to play it. Other than that though, there's not too much to him. He's kind-hearted, he could be a little goofball at times, but there's nothing like specifically about Danny that I could just point out and be like, that's him. That's his standout characteristic. The most I could give him is probably being the most serious when it comes down to business. But other than that, there's not too much to him unless he's with Lamar. Now Lamar is the person that you could put more in the goofy category because they always got this dude in a goofy little situation, man. Whether that be his back and forth with Renee, the jobs him and Danny get into, or if it's just him sitting there. Like he really don't got to be doing nothing for them to get on him, man. But on the other side of it, Lamar's the director. So if anybody needs guidance on what to do or what to say, things of that nature, he the one they call. And although he gets dogged on most of the time, he really is just a kind-hearted character, you know what I'm saying? But I would say he's the most selfless person out of the group. That same thing cannot be said about the next character, and my favorite character, Maritza. Now Maritza is the diva of the show. Uptight, over the top, glamour and all, man. She got Taina's big head times 10. And speaking of her dynamic with Taina, she will never not let you know that although Taina could sing, she could
Sing. There's a difference.
And although she's quote unquote the mean girl of the series, she's never fully taken in that direction. She's more of a frenemy than anything. They never take her into the full antagonistic route. Rather, they play with her over-the-top nature for laughs, and in doing so created the funniest character to come out of this show. And when these characters get around each other, their chemistry is unmatched. They just bring a unique feel that you just don't get from Nickelodeon like that, man. A unique feel that could only be described as real, specifically on the urban aspect and the people that come from there. Just first speaking on the casting aspect, like these ain't just actors that they chose to portray New Yorkers. Like these are actually people from New York playing these characters. And as for the characteristics they portray, man, I can't tell you how calming these characteristics are in an urban environment. Like I grew up around a Maritza. I grew up around a Taina or Renee. I grew up around a Danny and Lamar. And although slightly exaggerated, real is what describes these characters. And that's what also describes the music. Let's get into this next part. Now, usually with Nickelodeon shows or just kids shows in general, they'll have songs in their shows that's like catchy, nostalgic, get you vibing just a little bit. But it's never something that you would actually like want to listen to in your car or something. Here's where Taina changes the game. Because I can actually hear a lot of these songs from Taina on the radio. The music in Taina usually ranges from R&B, salsa, hip hop, slightly a little bit of pop. Sometimes they might just mix all the genres together to get something a little more unique. Most of the songs from this show usually come from Taina just daydreaming up a performance off of whatever topic they was talking about at that time or the theme of the episode. With this formula, we got some alright songs such as Toe to Toe, Good Times, Carnival, with Good Times resembling more of a 90s feel, while Carnival is more like a bouncy salsa cheetah girls type thing, you know what I'm saying? Then we got the gems of the bunch like Feel Good, Loving You, Boogie, Loving You being my personal favorite song from the show. This song just got that late 90s Monica Brandy vibe, man. It's a fun, upbeat jam that I can easily see on the radio blasting through somebody's mama car, man. But although we had all these good songs to come out this daydream sequence, there was one that's just irredeemable, and that's the Halloween song. I hate this song. This is horrible. The beat is suffering, bro. Other than the daydreaming sequences, we do get songs where they just straight up perform, such as Maritza's I'm in Love With Me, which has a feel-good, upbeat type of vibe to it. She even got a song on the soundtrack, which I'm disappointed it didn't make it into the show, because this song is ridiculous. We also got the Friendship song, which is performed on the series finale, where we also find out something crazy about Lamar. I ain't gonna spoil it for anybody who wanna watch it, but when you hear it, it's ridiculous. And finally, the song with Maritza, Taina, and Renee, which has more of a Destiny Child vibe to it. Then we have the songs that's performed with actual music groups like 3LW, who make an appearance in the second episode of the first season. And we also got Kelly Rowland featured in the music video of That We Were Friends song, which was one of the two songs produced by Full Force. The other song being Feels Good. Full Force having a hand in the Taina soundtrack makes sense considering that Lisa plays Taina's mother. And that's one of the main things I love about Taina's music, bro. It's culture. Like, you're not getting too much of this in Nickelodeon, especially not nowadays. And if you do, it's corny. But Taina, for the most part, managed to stay out of the corny zone, bringing us music that not only feels fun, but also has soul to it. And that's the key theme to Taina's music. Unlike everything else on Nickelodeon, Taina's music has soul to it. A soul that's backed by passion. It's just fun and sometimes beautiful music that lends itself to creating a certain type of vibe for Taina, man. And speaking of a vibe, the vibe of Taina could best be described as authentic. From the friendships to the family dynamics to the music, nothing feels forced, like they doing too much. Even with the laughter in the background, which is not a laugh track but a live studio audience. So when something is actually funny, you're gonna hear them laughing. And when it ain't funny, you won't hear them. Which sometimes can come off a little weird, but it's real. From the laughs to the sad sides, it's all real. And sometimes I see the show being compared to something like That's So Raven, where they say the humor is very similar. But I'll take that comparison even further, saying that Taina is another show with that black 2000s aesthetic. Now, if you need me to break down exactly what is the 2000s black aesthetic, I made a video on it a couple months ago. you could go check that out. But the aesthetic that Taina brings with the warm colors of the set, the raw vocal ranges of Taina and Maritza, and that warm home feeling that this show brings. Even with the camera angles of Taina has very unique camera angles and shots that you really won't see happen in any other sitcoms. And all of these parts of the aesthetic comes together to create a certain vibe and gives this show a unique character. And speaking of character, I want to bring up my favorite scene in Taina, which is the last scene of the first episode where they sing the acoustic version of the theme song. It starts off with Danny playing the guitar, then Taina comes in and starts singing the lyrics. And one by one, more and more people start joining in, singing, playing bongos. Somebody else comes in with another guitar. Maritza starts singing. Before you know it, the whole crowd is singing. This scene perfectly encapsulates everything I just mentioned about this show, with the realness of the characters, the soul of the music, and the authentic vibe that this show brings. Now, me personally, I'm only 20 years old, about to be 21 in a couple days. So I wasn't even born when the show came out. But years later, I found it, started watching, and from that scene, I immediately got hooked. Even watching the show with my niece and nephews and getting them hip to it. And now they sing along to the theme song anytime they hear it. The show has something special to it. It had a certain vibe to it that is just undeniable, man. Sadly, Nickelodeon didn't see that. Hence why the show only lasted a year and a half. Hopefully, y'all could go see it. And y'all can feel that same vibe that I feel and my nieces and nephews feel when we watch Taina.